This episode has been supported by Bow Concept Scotland. The Danish interior specialist offers a range of customisable furniture and accessories for the home and workplace. Bow Concept Scotland offers a free interior design service, a guarantee for a lifetime, and installation throughout the country. The team is delighted to announce the countdown to a new store opening on Ingham Street, Glasgow. Keep an eye on bowconcept.scotland on Instagram for further updates. Exciting times. Stores are currently in Buchanan Galleries and Princess Square, Glasgow, plus Edinburgh Rose Street. Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the Homes and Interior Scotland podcast. I'm your host, Gil Welsh, and I'm also the editor of the Homes and Interior Scotland magazine. Today we have a very special episode for you with two Scottish artists, Georgina McMaster and Lesley Banks. We'll be chatting about their work and opinions in the world of art and how you can incorporate art into your own home. So two different geographical areas today in terms of where you come from. Georgina, you've come from Aberdeenshire.
Yes.
What happens there?
It's windy and
quite rural.
Yes, quite rural. We were in a village, but we've just moved out into the country.
Oh, lovely.
So we've got two paddocks now. My husband's hating cutting the grass. I haven't done it yet because I've been heavily pregnant.
Yeah.
But I think I need to learn now how to use the sit on more, or maybe get a couple of Highland cows, some sheep or something.
Oh my goodness. So that informs your art in terms of where you are in your head and how you work.
Definitely.
Good.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, it's just lovely. We've got fantastic walks near us.
Brilliant.
At Haddo House National Trust is beautiful, and there's lots of inspiration there as well. So, yeah.
Could you imagine painting the same subject matter if you didn't live in the country?
No, probably not. Yeah, probably does influence what I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
And Lesley, you're a city girl?
Yep, just north of Glasgow, Bishopbriggs.
And how does that inform your approach to your work?
I suppose it's given me the space to sort of build a studio onto the house, so it a reasonable garden, so there was space to do that.
Absolutely.
Whereas before we moved there, I lived in tenement flats, which I loved, and high ceilings, big windows.
Yeah.
But it's quite nice to have a garden as well, and sometimes even take the paintings out into the garden to look at them properly.
Oh, nice. Lovely. Lesley, when did you first discover art?
I'm going to be really pretentious and say it discovered me.
Great.
I'm not from an artistic family, but as far back as I can remember, being an only child until I was 7, I used to hide in the cupboard under the stairs and draw and read. And whenever anybody said, what do you want to do, for some strange reason, I'm going to be an artist.
So that was a special place then?
Yeah.
Your own place?
And I still crave my own company. I spend most of the day on my own.
Okay. What about you, Georgina?
Yeah, I'm slightly different to you, Lesley, because I was brought up with it. I drew and painted from a really early age. My gran was an artist, and my mum is creative in different ways. She's a florist, and my sister Sally and I both went to art college as well at the same time. So we have always been surrounded by it, and it was always in my mind that was what I was going to do. I didn't even think of doing anything else.
See, that's lovely, because I was always sort of, an artist? You could be a doctor or a lawyer or something.
Yeah, no, I was lucky enough that my parents were very supportive, because I think that can be a lot of the time people don't follow an art career because they're worried about the after art school. Do you not think as well?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think you just have to be confident and go for it.
Good. Do you see it's a job?
It's a dream job. I'm just lucky enough to do something I love doing, and make a living from it. But it's instinctive, isn't it? You want to do it.
It's a job, but if you were going into the job to make lots of money, that would not be the job for you. So yes, I'm very lucky having a studio in the house and getting to go in there with my cup of coffee and listen to podcasts and paint all day.
You're essentially your own boss.
Absolutely. Although it's feast or famine. So when the kids were young, if things had gone well and I'd sold a big painting, they'd all be round about me going, I need new football boots. I need this.
Georgina, where do you work from?
I'm like Lesley, I work from the house as well. I've got a studio upstairs and it's great. It's so good.
Easier with children.
Yes, exactly. And although it's quite tricky sometimes because you think, I've got to go and hang the washing. It's a sunny day. And
the chores.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've just recently given birth to twins and things.
Yes.
So 3 kids.
Yeah. So.
And you've moved house too.
Yeah.
Because in your past house, it was you painted from the
summer house.
The summer house, that's right.
Yeah.
So now it's within the house.
Yes.
So what's it like, the different space?
Yeah, different space. It's a lot bigger, but usually when I'm working, my husband or a family friend who's looking after them will take the babies away. I think it's the easiest thing to do.
Absolutely.
It's too distracting.
Yeah.
How important is art?
I see art in everything, so it's hugely important. Design, jewellery, interiors, floristry.
Yeah.
So everything we see and use has been made by someone creative.
Okay.
Yep, I would second that because art is everywhere, and I think people are quite intimidated by the thought of art, and art is not just a painting in a posh gallery on the wall. And quite often people will say to me, oh, I don't like art, or I don't know anything about art. But in actual fact, every single day they're making a decision about art, whether it's what clothes to wear, what makeup to put on, what colour they're painting their wall, the pattern on their cushion. So everybody makes artistic decisions, but they just don't realise it. And they shouldn't be intimidated by art because it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Georgina, how would you describe your style of painting and why animals?
I've always loved animals, and we're surrounded by animals from a young age. Horses, dogs, cats, and I just love them. I love the fact that they are almost like humans. They've got their own characters, and they're just like people, and I want to almost make them look like people as well. And that's why I spend a lot of time on the features and the eyes, and usually have them looking at you directly as well, or have a wee story behind them too. But then I also like to be more expressive with other parts of the animals, just to leave layers and show the fur and contrast as well.
Lovely. Lesley, you're more, for me, certainly the subject matter sort of focuses more on the built environment. Why is that?
Well, for years I did paint people, and I'm just the kind of artist that I like to paint different things rather than doing the same thing. So once the children started to get a bit older, I ventured into the outside world. So it was really about that, because I paint people in places around me. So I'm forever, if I'm out walking the dog or, just walking about, things will, appeal to me. And I think, I'll come back here with a sketchbook, my camera, whatever. So I began to get really interested in the buildings in Venice.
Yes.
And I did a canal residency, so the bridges and the old buildings all along the canals. Just at different times of the year, so different seasons, different lights, different mood and atmosphere.
Lesley, tell us more about your love affair with Italy. I know you got married there, but it seems it's a recurring place that appears in your work.
It all started because when I was at art school, and they always did a painting trip to San Gimignano, and I couldn't afford to go. And I'm quite a I don't like that. I don't like when I can't do things. So I was always determined I'd go to San Gimignano. I couldn't miss out on that. So I went interrailing with my then boyfriend after art school, went to San Gimignano, fell in love with it, and then a few years later got a travelling scholarship and went back to San Gimignano for 10 weeks and stayed there and met people who have become lifelong friends, including Dino, who was in his 80s at the time, Anna, who worked in the wee tourist box that I was always over saying, how do I get to Poggibonsi? When's the last train to here? And that's before San Gimignano was really kind of so touristy. So the people were really friendly. And then I went back again with the children, and I went back with my eldest when he was 3 and a friend to look after him. And again, we went for about 10 weeks. And then we'd got married there 6 years ago, all the wrong way round. And the eldest, Jack, it was like a full circle. Jack by then was in his 20s and he was the best man. And Suzanne, who'd looked after Jack in San Gimignano when he was 3, was the kind of maid of honour. And we got married in the town hall, very informally, in the Sala di Dante, which is called that because Dante was actually supposed to have visited there.
Wow, that's amazing.
So to get back to art, it's been a real source of inspiration. So although these were holidays, I was always painting when I was out there. So hard push to say either San Gimignano or Venice. Very different places, but could happily just keep painting there.
And of course the food there is amazing.
And the food.
Absolutely. Okay, so one artist you could collect, who would it be?
I love the work of Robert Rauschenberg, who was a pop artist. And his work it's not painting or sculpture, but a combination of the two. So it hangs on the wall, but it reaches into 3 dimensions by collage of different materials, fabrics, clocks, mirrors, birds, lots of different things. And it's just a wide range of media that he uses, which I think is incredible. Maybe because it's just so different to what I do.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. So I really admire that. And it sounds a bit crazy, but all the elements that he puts onto a piece balanced together. So, and they're huge, massive, big pieces as well.
The proportions.
Yeah.
Great.
So I would just love to collect his work.
Sounds great. Lesley, what about you?
Oh, this was really difficult to put it down to one person because I saw Victoria Crow's 50 years of painting just last week. Would hang every single one of them. They were amazing. But I did decide on David Hockney for pretty much the same reasons as Georgina, in that you would never get tired of it because his work is so diverse. And I do love artists who really try different things. And of course, through a 60-year career, he's done digital art on his iPad. He's far more savvy than me, things like that. He painted, quite realistic portraits, very abstract work, huge big landscapes from Yorkshire. And of course, most people probably know his pool paintings from Los Angeles. And he's also done like theatre backdrops. He's just done everything and he's still working.
So quite different to your style of painting, do you think then, Lesley?
Yeah, probably.
Does it inspire you in some ways?
In some ways, his portrait compositions.
Right, okay.
Because he liked a wee bit of still life and windows as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's just breathtaking with his, abstract landscapes.
Yes.
You wouldn't think it was the same person. Oh, and I love his Polaroid photographs, which he cuts up and sticks all together.
Yes.
So.
But also, correct me if I'm wrong, but did he not do quite a lot of swimming pool work as well, which you've got
well, I
fantastic
suppose,
pieces.
the Arlington Bath.
Your depiction of water in the swimming pool as well.
And he also painted gay men in the 60s and sort of normalised that more.
Okay.
So do you think a painting enhances a home, Georgina?
Yes. I think it enhances a home by bringing life to a room, and it's not just about adding decoration. No. And it speaks volumes about the person and about what they choose to put on their walls.
Do you think it's a commitment to that though? Is it quite
Yes.
tricky to commit to put something on the wall?
Yeah, I mean all the paintings that I have collected are all personal to me. So I think everyone probably has that, don't they? They see something in a piece of artwork or they just absolutely adore it and fall in love with it and has to have it. And yeah, I think definitely it enhances.
How about you, Lesley? What do you think? You've got quite a lot of art in your walls, I think.
Well, I think, probably too many. I've got to be very careful not to hang too many.
So when does it reach the too many stage?
Don't know.
When there's no wall space.
There's no wall space. I think they're a window into another world because you can hang anything on the wall, and it could transport you to landscape in Tuscany or, the Arlington Bath or whatever, or just abstract, like where you get lost in the colours. Also, I think it's really important to move your artwork about so it doesn't become background, because I do that. I've got a wonderful painting by Marie Barber, and it's just blue with sort of trees in the winter, and there's one wee bird on it. And I love it as a painting. And I actually moved it out into the back hall so that when I come out my studio and it's on the wall just beside the back door and the window, And it means I notice it every day.
Yeah.
I think we hang things like, oh, that red painting will be really nice next to the green wall. And then you don't look at it anymore. So move your paintings about.
That's a good idea. That's a good point. More tips for listeners regarding presentation and framing and things like that and trends. What's going on? What's happening out there? What's the best?
I think I think most art most paintings need to be framed, and I think it definitely enhances a piece of artwork. Do you not agree? Yeah.
It depends. I did quite a lot of paintings on deep edge linen.
Okay.
Because I wanted it to look more contemporary, and they looked fine together. But if I'm putting one of them into a group show, yes, I'd get it framed because it looked a wee bit lost. I think it's such a personal decision, and depending on what the decor of your house is like. So you could have deep edge linen painting and quite a minimalist house. White wall could look really good, but if you put it into a more traditional home, it would probably need something. And there's a real thing in Scotland for having things behind glass. Well, paintings on canvas behind glass, which in England they don't really want. And someone said, and it might be rubbish, someone said it was to do with coal fires and, industry and things getting dirty and damaged. So I don't know if that's true. But when I'm sending things down to London, I don't tend to have glass on them.
It can make them very heavy as well. It's a large piece.
Yeah, and I can't, to afford non-reflective glass. I mean, it's very expensive.
So what happens in the process? So you finish a painting. What do? Do you decide whether or not to frame it? Do you advise the potential customer to frame it?
I always frame my work unless it's a commission, and then you ask the customer what they would like. But you often, I don't know if you have that, sometimes people want to...
They want to change the frame. And you do get some galleries who are really pernickety about frames, if there's a wee bash on it, and, quite often it's the galleries that have done that. Sorry, galleries. It's very true. I do get annoyed when frames become more important than the painting.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. I agree with you with respect to my work. My frames are always really, really simple. And I just go for like the same kind of frame. And I think there are some artists though, for example, Gordon Mitchell, he makes his own frames, and that is almost, it becomes part of the artwork, which is lovely as well. And you can see that works with his painting.
And Howard Hodgkins painted over his frames, which I always liked as well.
Wow.
Okay, if you could take one piece of art, it could be an antique, sculpture, or tapestry, from any gallery in the world to keep in your home, what would it be?
It's very difficult, isn't it, to do this?
So difficult, yes.
Especially because there's so many big, like, I love Jeff Koons, for example, and like and Anthony Gormley and all these different sculptures and things.
That really surprises me as well because it's so different.
I know, I love that.
Work.
I love all these different things. And then I thought, would I put that in my garden though? Or like, I don't think so. So
I offend the neighbours.
Yeah, exactly. So a painting that I've always loved, can go and visit a lot because it's the Kelvin Grove, is Old Willie by James Guthrie.
Oh, that's a great painting.
And I just love it. So you've obviously seen it. Yeah.
What is it about that you love?
Just that it's a really honest and realistic portrait, and he's looking directly at you, and you just think, I wonder what he's thinking, what he's been doing, and the background's really simple, and the way it's been painted is just amazing.
Really,
it's incredible.
So what makes it a great painting? Do you know?
I think it just evokes emotions, and you could just stand and look at it all day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lesley, we're dying to hear what you would
after much
take
debate.
from a gallery.
Well, and it probably stems back from when I first started to look at artists, and one of my favourite artists was Degas, and I would have one of the bronze castings of The Little Dancer aged 14. And when he made it in wax with real hair and a tutu and satin slippers, and it's of a 14-year-old working class girl, because at that time ballet dancers were from the working class, and the critics just couldn't decide. Some people thought it was really ugly and horrible, and she's just so determined. There's this wee face. She's not beautiful, but she's standing in this ballet pose with her nose in the air. And I think when he did exhibit it, the critics they just really didn't like it at all. So I think it wasn't until after he died that his relatives made, I think it was 30 bronze castings of it. So there's about 28 of them still in existence in lots of galleries over the world. So even if I took one, I'm not denying other people. And it's quite a nice scale. It's not massive.
That's great, thank you. Okay, a piece of art you can't part with is...
I'm going to be really awful and say one of mine, but it's because it's the old man I met when I went to Italy on my own when I was in my late 20s, and I was sitting sketching, waiting on the bus back to the house I was renting in the countryside, and he started talking to me, and he didn't speak any English, and my Italian's a wee bit ropey, but he invited me for lunch, and I told the lady who I'd rented the house from, and she was married to an Italian, she's English, and she said, "You can't go to an Italian man's house on your own." I said, "But he's about 80. And she went, "I'll come and introduce myself and make him see that you're not here on your own." And he stayed in this amazing tiny wee apartment on the main street in San Gimignano. And so Gaynor, don't know what she said to him, but she talked away in Italian. He's like, "Oh, see." So he made me lunch, and it was all the things that I like now, but I didn't at that age, you know, like really old prosciutto, you know, really, and really strong coffee. And I asked him if he would model for me. And I did sell quite a few paintings of his kitchen and other paintings of him. But this one, he's sitting side on a red chair with his T-shirt and his wee belly and his braces.
Yes.
Braces. So yes, he's sitting with his wee belly and his T-shirt and his braces and his side on. And the curtains are these kind of nylon 1960s with a wee pattern on them, because his wife had died about 20 years ago, and I think they'd been up that long.
I remember the painting, and what I remember about it is the light at the window.
Yeah, so he's silhouetted against the light coming in the window. And so over the years, until sadly he died, you know, when I went back and forth to San Gimignano, we'd always have to go for a Vin Santo in his local bar Firenze, where he could show off to all his pals, you know. Yeah, it's not that I couldn't part with it because I'm saying it's a great painting or anything, but it's really a memory of that time.
Absolutely. Georgina?
Yeah, mine is the first painting my dad bought. And that's why I can't part with it. And I always admired it, and he said I could have it. And it's an unknown artist, and he bought it in his 20s. And it's a big painting and depicts a horse and carriage trotting down a tree-lined, very wet road. Just as the sun is coming up, on an austere winter's day, so the light is really dramatic and the colours are fantastic. It was very personal to me, obviously, because it was something my dad chose, and I loved the idea of my younger dad, you know, going to the gallery and seeing it. And he took his friend Peter along, apparently, and he showed it to him, and he said, "What do you think?" And Peter said, "Oh, it's got a steeple in the background." So he said, "Oh, it looks like they're coming home from mass." So it didn't even have a name or anything. So it's just, that's what we've called it. It's like a family painting, and yeah, it's quite lovely, quite out there though. It's quite like, oh, it's quite a different painting. And the framing, actually, because we're talking about framing, it's very like gold and really, and I think that's actually what attracted him to it in the first place.
Sounds a little bit glam in place.
Yeah, so but that hangs in my house now. It just reminds me of my dad's.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, I think mine would be a little painting that my son drew me a couple of years ago, and it's always been a special thing.
What's it
called? It's a little rose.
Oh,
we face of drawing roses and painting roses, probably at school. I mean, he's not an artist.
You never know.
He wants to be a footballer, but certainly that's one thing I think I'll always have. Yeah, it means a lot. Anyway, it'd be good to hear about art that you don't particularly like, but it stays with you for certain reasons. Have you got anything like that, Lesley, that you don't particularly like? But
well, I do, and again, it's Italy, and it's in San Gimignano in the Collegiate Church, and it's the Last Judgment by Bartolo di Freddi, painted in 1367, and of course it's quite crudely painted, but it's about hell, and it's about what would happen, all the horrible things, and there's demons, and there's pregnant women with stakes through them, and it's all kind of brown and dark, and it's over one wall of the church, and it's quite scary. And it does it, although I'm not particularly religious, it does make me think, oh, if hell's like that, I better start being a better person. Because it's, you know, one scene, you don't forget things like that, and it's obviously influenced by Dante's Inferno, and, you know, kind of religious instruction for the masses. Behave yourself or this will happen to you.
Yeah.
So it stays in your head, but I certainly wouldn't want it in my house or anything.
So this leads on to the next question. What makes good art? Is it the reaction? Is it the way it's depicted? Is it the style of painting?
I think
It's a very, very
I
difficult
think good
question.
art needs to give you some reaction, and it doesn't need to be Guernica where you're kind of quite horrified by it and upset by it. It can also be, oh, that really reminds me of my holiday there,
Yeah.
or my childhood. I think the worst thing is if somebody just walks past a piece of art and really dismisses it. So if a painting or a sculpture can give you some kind of connection that makes you think about it and you remember it, I think that makes a good piece of art.
Do you think you need to be trained to be a good artist?
Yes, I think you do. Yeah, I think you do.
Okay.
I think it's important because it's a natural progression.
I think it helps.
Yeah.
I guess you can maybe learn and train yourself, but I think, Picasso did very realistic, technically proficient work before he became very abstract. So I think it's good to have a good grounding of how composition works and how to place things on paper. Regardless
Definitely.
of,
Spatially, things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, because it makes you feel confident as well
Uh-huh.
to start a piece of work
Uh-huh.
and you're learning from that
Yeah.
person that knows all these
start with
things.
many lines and then end up almost being an abstract artist.
Okay. When you're exhibiting your work, how important is the audience reaction to it?
Well, most artists work on their own, like you were saying earlier, like
Yeah.
we do. So do you not find you can kind of be nervous about putting a piece
Oh, it's
out
horrible.
into a gallery? So,
I get really excited about it, especially if it's a solo show, and I get all excited about the preview and invite everybody, and then about 2 hours before that I just feel sick.
Yeah.
Like, why have I done this? I don't want to go.
yeah, so it is
Horrible.
rewarding, isn't
Well,
it, and flattering when people
Yeah, say something.
buy and like your work.
Yeah.
It is important, and obviously we're fortunate enough to paint what we want to,
Yeah.
and people like it.
Yeah, you don't want people just coming in, like I said earlier, just walk past with no reaction. Something that you have slaved over for hours, and then people go, oh.
Yeah, no, I think it's important.
So each episode we ask guests to prepare a quick how-to on anything they like. We've discussed how to clean behind a radiator, how to deal with missing out on a house you put an offer in for, and even had a special way to set tablet. So let's hear what your how-to is, Georgina.
So mine is, best tip I ever got was from my driving instructor when I was 17, and it revolutionised my parking. And I'm now known as the wizard of reverse parking in my family.
I need this tip.
Okay, so you drive parallel to the car in front, as you would
Yes.
always. Then reverse straight back until you see the end of the car beside you.
Right.
Then steer one full circle in the direction you want to reverse into. Then turn to look in your rear window. And as you reverse back, you want to make sure that either the pavement or the side of the road is taking up the whole of the window, back window, before you then steer in the other direction hard back. And it works without fail. My husband's always really jealous, and quite often I have to get out of the car and reverse when he's parking.
Excellent. And how long does that take then?
Well, it's just normal reverse parking, probably a bit quicker because it's such a good tip.
What about you, Lesley? What's your how-to?
Well, having 3 sons who always had hamsters when they were growing up. And my tip is how to make sure your hamster is really dead. If it's in the winter. Because if your house is quite cold like mine is, hamsters can actually go into hibernation. So there was much hysteria when Sally, the hamster, who was a vicious little minx, was out cold, bottom of the cage, legs stuck out, solid, quite solid. And so there was much weeping. And I said, actually, it may be in hibernation. And my husband's going, don't be ridiculous. So, of course, I heated up a clean tea towel on the heater, got the hamster out, wrapped it in the warm tea towel and put it next to my body for half an hour. And eventually there was some slight movement. So I'm like, that boys, I think Sally's okay. And I was a wee bit worried because Sally was a biter. So I'm like trying to get Sally warm enough to put back in the cage before Sally decided to take a big bite out of me. And sure enough, and honestly, I was a superstar that day because I brought a hamster back to life.
Oh my goodness.
And it's only because I had hamsters as a child, so I knew that.
I wish I'd known this.
Well, you may well have buried a
The thing is,
live
our hamster, Worcester, my son's hamster, has gone missing.
Oh.
And that's
You need
in the
to
last 4 months.
set a trap.
And we can't find it anywhere.
And is there evidence of chewed corners or anything? Have you left a trail of food out to his cage?
We've done that. There's no sign of Worcester. Okay. Thanks a lot, Lesley and Georgina, for coming in today. It's been a really, really enlightening discussion. Interesting. Thank you.
No, it's been fantastic being here. I can't believe you work in this cool building. It's incredible, isn't it? Look at the light. I want to paint here, actually. I love the way it's unfinished as well. It's cool, isn't it? It's like a mixture of very, very modern and then kind of left with the kind of brickwork and concrete and everything. It's very, very cool.
Great.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting experience, and I know Georgina's wonderful work very well, but I've never met her. So
It's been lovely to meet you too.
And when we both work in isolation, you don't always spend time with other artists.
No,
So
I know. It's
really
really
interesting.
nice. Really nice to meet you.
You too.
Thanks, Georgina and Lesley. What an interesting and insightful discussion with lots to take away, including the tip about moving your art around the home and how not to bury a live hamster. The big November-December issue of the magazine has just landed on shelf. With it comes the annual free art guide. It's a handbook packed with practical advice on things like where to start with art, how to buy it, who to view and where to look. The magazine and supplement are available across Scotland in all good retailers, or you can read this bumper edition online via the Homes and Interior Scotland app or on Readly. Receive next year's magazines direct to your door by subscribing today from just £18. Or why not buy a subscription as a Christmas gift for someone that they can enjoy long after the tree is down. If you're enjoying our podcast, please don't forget to rate, review and subscribe. Find us online at homesandinteriorscotland.com or on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Pinterest by searching for Homes and Interior Scotland. This episode of the Homes and Interior Scotland podcast was presented by myself, Gil Welsh, produced by Sarah Gillespie and edited by Alec Drew. And thanks again to Bow Concept Scotland. We're really looking forward to visiting the new Glasgow store when it opens. Keep up to date on Instagram or head to bowconcept.com.